Hi, everybody. Welcome. We are here tonight with Carrie Bornstein, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Mayyim Hayyim. This is a really beautiful organization that strives to bring meaningful mikveh experiences to the community, and I am absolutely thrilled to have her on here. And this is something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while because mikveh, the ritual bath, is something. Here she comes. Should be here in a second. Mikveh is something that traditionally is something that individuals in the Orthodox community. Hold on, guys. Give me a second. Let me make sure she's here. What's so fun about technology is the fact that sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Here we go. Let's see if she's here now. We're going to grab her in a second. Okay, let's see. Anyhow, so the beauty of the mikvah was traditionally really one that was sort of ensconced in the Orthodox community, and the community that is more to the right. It says Caroline is unable to join. We're going to try this again. Hold on one second. Carrie, let's see if it works now. Oh, yay. Okay, great. See, you know what's so funny about technology? Technology is this like really beautiful and brilliant thing that when it works
Yeah.
really well. And when it doesn't, it really doesn't. So,
Yeah.
and then we all look silly, and then like we're talking to ourselves, and I make funny faces, and I'm like trying to do things. So it's all good. Anyhow, so I was talking just a little bit about how mikveh traditionally was really something that was sort of unique to the Orthodox community, but in the last many number of years, it's really been seen as something that anyone and everyone in the Jewish community can access as part of, a meaningful Jewish experience. So I'm really excited to speak to you about this tonight. And please introduce yourself to the audience.
I will. So I'm Carrie Bornstein. I'm so grateful to have you all here, and I'm seeing some familiar logins here. It's great. It's great to have everybody here. So I'm the CEO at Mayyim Hayyim Living Waters Community Mikveh Education Center, which is in Newton, Massachusetts, in the Boston area. And that's me in a small nutshell of like just my title, but we'll tell you a lot more about who I am and all of that.
So let's just sort of jump right into it. You heard about Mayyim Hayyim and you became involved with it as a volunteer. So can you like reach back into the recesses of your memory? I know all of us, it's late, but do your best.
Sure.
And tell us how you first got involved, why it was important to you to be involved, and how you wanted to change your role in the organization and how you grew through the years.
Yeah. So I first found out about Mayyim Hayyim when it was like before it was even open. I heard Anita Diamond speak at a biennial Reform Movement biennial conference, and she talked about this concept of a community mikveh that was really open to the full diversity of the Jewish people and could be beautiful and welcoming and feel like just no matter who you are in the Jewish community, you belong. And it would be a place that really just welcomed each person for who they were. And I was so intrigued by that. I think, I was like fresh out of college and really into the like, who am I as a Jew and where do I fit in? And so that was all really exciting to me. Um, and then I got married in 2003, which was about a year before my claim opened. And I went to the mikveh for the first time before my wedding. and had like kind of both an experience and a really powerful experience at the same time. I went to my mother brought me, what's that about?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
no, I was like, I want to hear more about that. What,
Yeah.
like, how do you have an and powerful? Like, tell me
Yeah.
more about that.
So my mother brought me to an Orthodox mikveh. Not, I grew up on Long Island, and it was like, she knew the place to go. Well, I'll take you. This is the place. And it was like, this totally nondescript building and nondescript person, and it just like it felt very I don't know, just like that's the technical term. Is it? Eh. And um I remember like I got ready, and I like this weird thing and was just doing what I was doing, and then I got I actually like I still remember this moment where I was under the water and like had this moment of just being down at the bottom and having this like, oh my god, I'm getting married in a couple days. Like it like hit this super powerful moment. And it felt like I was doing something really important, and making that transition, like getting my head in that place. And so I didn't know after I got met, like I had learned about Nida and was I gonna do this thing or not. I didn't really know, but I also felt like, well, I won't, I can think about it all I want. But I have to do it in order to know if I'm gonna want to do it or not. And so I kept going, and before Mayyim Hayyim was open, I went to the Orthodox mikveh near where I lived, and it was fine. It was fine. And then Mayyim Hayyim opened up, and I drove the 20 minutes to get there. And it was like, I had this like, oh my God, it can be this thing. And so I had this experience of like walking into a place that was beautiful. So like that's good and that's important. And also it's like you can go to the most beautiful place in the world, and if the people who are there are not, not like good people that are welcoming
Correct.
you, and
Correct.
who cares how beautiful something is.
Right.
So it was beautiful, and the mikveh guide who welcomed me was like basically like she was like a rock star version of, like a cooler version of an older me. And she was like the coolest person ever. And I was like, oh my God, what is this place? Like it's, and Mayyim Hayyim has these 7 kavanot intentions for mikveh preparation, and it was just all incredibly meaningful. Whereas my previous experiences were like the photocopy thing on the wall that's like, take a shower, cut your nails, take off your makeup, take off your jewelry, blah 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 blah. Like, okay, you do those things, and then it transformed into this experience of like, what's the transition you're marking today? Think about that. Like, what does that mean? And that's step 1 in the process. And when there's the instruction to take off your jewelry and your makeup, it's about like your body in its most basic form. That is beautiful. And in the mikveh, there's no need for like these extra layers that we put on ourselves.
Wow.
And so it just became this incredibly meaningful experience. And I sort of like, I had this like Adam and Eve kind of experience of like my eyes were open to something that I didn't realize was even possible before. And I just felt like, okay, I felt so drawn to the place. And I remember getting the email that said, a new group of volunteers was going to be trained, and I was like, oh my God, would they take me? Could they accept me? So and so I did. I was trained. I was accepted, and just like kept getting sucked deeper into the organization. And so I was a volunteer mikveh guide for about 2 years before I joined the staff with Lisa Berman, who I see is hopefully still on right now.
Okay.
Who
Hi, Lisa.
So one of my earliest colleagues in the organization, who had an incredible she helped really build this organization in very deep ways. And, like, I joined the staff in 2008 and then became the director in 2012. Yeah, so that's kind of my origin story. Yeah, the other piece of it that's like is an incredibly meaningful part of my journey is in my guiding days and when I first joined the organization, I was the Mikveh Center director, and so I was the person who was helping to welcome in the community and train our volunteers, and was like the head kind of like keeping an eye on all of the mikveh related stuff to make sure everybody had a good experience. And I, between my mikveh guiding and in that professional role, I was exposed to like just all of these individuals and couples who were really in pain because of their fertility related experiences. And
Right. I was actually right. I was going to specifically ask you, like, was the intention for Mayyim Hayyim sort of its in its original form? I guess when Anita Diamond was, conceiving it, so to speak, and when Lisa Berman was involved, was it to have this space to have a meaningful experience, like in general, or did it have any, like, obviously mikvah is tied to your cycle, is tied to nida, is tied to fertility because of the essence of what it is, but was there any discussion about creating meaningful rituals around people who are struggling from its inception, or was that something that evolved over time?
Yes, all of the above, I would say.
Okay.
Like originally, Mayyim Hayyim was created with conversion in mind. That was like very much the sort of original. Anita went and was sort of an anthropologist at other mikvehs and was kind of like checking out the conversion experience because she was writing a book about converting to
Right.
Judaism, and it just this concept of like, guys, we got to do better. Like, somebody's actually choosing to become Jewish, they want into this thing, like, let us welcome them in the deepest, with the deepest possible respect and celebration. So that was the original, and the other like really big reason that the founders really thought people were going to come was around healing. So like not necessarily specifically around fertility journeys, but just this concept of healing and broadly, like people who were mourning the loss of their partner for of years and years, who may have passed away, or someone who is starting chemotherapy, all of these different healing related experiences. So I think the concept of using the mikveh as a transition ritual to heal, and to reflect and pause and take in and like separate from what had been and moving into what will be,
Right.
whatever it's not this healing of like, it's not gonna be better now, but marking a separation between like reflecting on the past and holding what is and moving towards the future with hope. Like that was very ingrained into the fabric of the organization. And over time, all of the fertility related work really grew and was deepened in a lot of meaningful ways.
Got it. And
Yeah.
so how, I mean, I know you have a tremendous story. It's
I
all
have
good.
a dog too.
we I was going to say, welcome to work from home.
Here.
Exactly. When the question is the intention about, like, people going through these fertility journeys and these struggles, and then you have a very personal story yourself where you decided to be a gestational carrier. So how was that interwoven with this work?
Yeah. So I started seeing all of these people coming in, and after a miscarriage, after after delivering a stillborn baby, after, you know, I remember guiding for a woman who came to immerse on what would have been the first birthday of her child who died. And like all of these horrible, painful kinds of experiences, and we have this beautiful guest book at Mayyim Hayyim where we invite people to share something about their experience or just reflect on their visit, and people would pour their hearts out about the pain and the loss, and how I remember getting an email from somebody who said that when she read through our immersion ceremony for following a miscarriage, that it was the first time that she felt like it was okay to acknowledge her anger, and
Wow.
it was the first time that she felt like she could move forward with some kind of hope, because
Wow.
she was able to like to let that go and own it and move forward.
Wow.
And like so powerful to you know, that was just incredibly powerful. And I also had the experience of welcoming in individuals and couples who may have adopted a baby or finally became pregnant and had a baby, and you know, either they were just coming in to celebrate, or they were coming in postpartum for an immersion, or they were coming in to convert their child. And the joy, like, oh my God, the joy with some of these people, even if I didn't know their story, like you just, you know, sometimes of like, you don't need to know
Right.
a couple story. It's like they're coming in to convert a newborn that they adopted. Like, you know, that they have been on a journey. It's been hard. It's been grueling, and now they're celebrating. So, you know, take these two.
The only thing I'm going to say to that is that it's so interesting that you're bringing this up, because we spent all of last week talking about adoption, and I learned so much from that week, and we had different experts who were on, and it's interesting to me because that was my assumption also, and I learned. I mean, there are so many people out there that just in their own sort of way of tikkun olam, without even, you know, struggling with fertility, they have always wanted to adopt, and that was something, and the joy is still the same, and that joy of coming to the mikveh and, you know, wanting to convert is still very much the same. But it's just an interesting lesson for me to know. I always made the assumption that it was always like someone had a very deep, like, painful story, and I learned that it wasn't always that way, and that was a beautiful lesson for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Everyone's story is different for sure. Um, yeah. So, I was
The
just,
bottom line is you saw this pain, and you just felt like it touched you
I
deeply.
saw, yeah, I saw pain. I saw joy. I saw my own 3 kids, and I knew I was done having kids, like no more. Did not want another child, but I also loved being pregnant. Like I was sad to think about not being pregnant again. It just like, for whatever, you know, luck reason, that I was like gifted with a functional uterus and ovaries or whatever, like, you know, it just all worked. And it felt like actually through, you know, through no merit of my own, I was like gifted with well functioning organs and body that, like, you know, just enjoyed it. And I was like, I kind of I started by joking around it. I was like, I should just, like, you know, I love being pregnant. I'll just like be pregnant, but I don't want the kid. I'll like, ugh, who wants another kid? Like, I don't want the kid. You take the kid. I'll do the pregnancy part. And like, it was like this funny haha thing, um, until I like actually eventually was like, I wonder, Like, we actually, there was a point at which we were sort of considering, like, should we have a 4th child? And thank God my husband was like, I'm done. I can't. You know, I was like, keep going. He had to like kind of convince me to have the 3rd. And then I was like, let's just keep going. And he was like, no, I'm done. So that was good. But I was sad to think about not being pregnant again. And so I looked it up one day and sort of discovered like I actually could. Like I just sort of assumed I was too old. I was, I think, 38 at the time, and discovered like, yeah, nobody wants my eggs at 38 years old. But like the rest of it, fine.
Right.
And I could not shake it. I couldn't get it out of my head that I could actually do this thing. And I was like, why am I walking around with an empty uterus when there are people who are like, want desperately to have a baby? Like, what am I doing here? Like, how could it came to the point where I was like, how could I not do this thing? Like, what justification do I have? And I like, couldn't find any.
Wow. And how did that experience, I mean, we need to do another live to talk about that. That's not the focus of this correct today, but I brought it up, and I do want to, so we'll schedule that. But I, but how did that, I mean, in the meantime, you're, the CEO of Mayyim Hayyim, and you're running this organization, and you're creating meaningful experiences, and you're having your own deeply meaningful experience. How did your going through that change the way you are as a leader in terms of, working with your staff, working with the programming, figuring out what more to be able to do and grow, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it was, I think it started from a place of privilege where I did, part of me was like, how am I going to do, like that's a lot. And I'm the CEO, and that's pregnancy is a lot of work. Like it's a lot of work. And, to be pregnant on your own is a lot of work, or with a partner is a lot of work. And now there's like this couple that you're managing a pregnancy with, like that's a lot. And I also I felt like, okay, who's going to tell me not to? Like, and that was, it's not like I mean, the chair of the board at that time, she adopted her own children because she was not able to become pregnant. So like she got it, and I was like,
Yep.
so let me think about this thing. And she was like, blown away, like, it's not like she was going to stand in the way. The incoming board chair was the owner of a baby and kids toy store. Like, she's deeply invested in the, like, she's into babies and whatever.
Yep.
So it was like, I felt like, okay, let me feel this out with some of my board members, and they were super supportive. And so I started, I think it was a big, important moment in my leadership journey, because I was able to recognize a need and a way that I could fill that need. And like, I was able to do it. And so I think it's sort of given me confidence in a lot of ways to look to other places and say, like, why not?
Right.
Why not? Why couldn't I do this other thing? My grandmother, who passed away in early March, used to always say, thank you. She used to always say, what one jackass can do, any jackass can do. So I
So
carry
great.
that name. It's fantastic. And so, like, I think I looked at the surrogacy to some extent that way of like, well, other jackasses do this. Why can't I? And so for
great.
other, well, in my leadership, like, why couldn't I? So I think that's stayed with me. I mean, my it was like an incredibly bizarre thing, I think, for my staff to be like, you're doing what? With a lot of interruptions and weirdness, and like, that existed. And I think it also, like, it was a way of my taking something that I really cared very deeply about, and like infusing it into the life of the organization. Also, like, it totally stemmed from my role in the organization. It was this very personal thing that I did. But it also created a lot of great opportunities for the organization as well, and for us to deepen into our work, and create, for example, this Fertility Journeys Healing Guide. Those
Right. I want you to talk
yeah.
more about that. So go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was written by Dahlia Davis from Uprooted,
He's
Jewish
amazing.
Journeys, and Lisa Berman, who I mentioned before, really spearheaded that project, and just poured so much into it. And so my story is one of the stories that's featured in that, but it was also this like real compilation of a collection of stories, both biblical and now, and activities and resources and guides for like how to walk this journey, and with sort of like a pocket guide to accompany someone, because we felt like in being in the Boston area, we're actually a national organization now and have a reach through other mikveh and supporting their work across the country and the world. But certainly being in the Boston area, like people have incredible access to medical care. And I think, stereotypically the Jewish community has like we know doctors by and large,
Yes.
and we have really strong medical care and advice, and like we know where to turn and how to navigate that. And we have not done such a great job with the whole spiritual support side, actually, as a community, to say like, this is like a huge thing. We as a people place such an emphasis on making babies, making Jewish babies, make the babies, make all the babies. And like, what are we doing when it is so common for people not to have the experience that I had, like
Right.
carriage after miscarriage after like not is my connection freezing? Okay.
Okay, you're back. Go ahead.
Like all of these, miscarriages, or never even getting pregnant in the first place, or like it is so common to have that experience. What are we doing to support people and walk this path? So that's where this idea came from. For this guide, we have a similar guide actually for a Jewish healing guide for women with cancer that was very successful. Blessings for the journey, and that was written by a number of cancer survivors, and was just a wonderful resource. And we said like, well, we have this thing, we need something like this for fertility. And so so I think it was a great case to make to a foundation, like a great proposal to write, to be like, so I actually really care about this. I'm actually pregnant, right? Or I'm becoming pregnant with somebody else's baby, like so that like I think that might have helped the proposal.
I think you're probably right.
Proposal. Yeah, if I can just gotta figure out some comparable, what else can I do to get
exactly. Do I guess so put yourself now, I mean, as someone who is struggling, someone who either is going through treatments, going through infertility treatments, or has not been able to get pregnant and is seeking some infusion in this way, someone who just had a loss, someone who is considering any one of these options, whether it's just being a gestational carrier or adoption, like you're going through something. What happens to that person as they reach out to Mayyim Hayyim? Just walk me through, or walk us through what the process is, and how one is cared for, and what the ritual slash procedures are when someone comes in.
Absolutely. So first of all, I will say, even without reaching out, there's a lot of information on our website. And so like I think there are a lot of people who are just never even going to pick up the phone because that's too much, right? Or that's just not what they want to do. But what, I think like built into the fabric of the organization is communicating a message that, we explicitly and proactively are here for you, no matter who you are. And we are, we have something to support you. We see you, we recognize you. So that means like, there's discussion on our website about fertility, right? Like this isn't an invisible kind of thing. So it's explicit. And I think that's an important first step of this. And when people reach out, they are greeted by somebody who is thoughtful and caring on the other end, of the phone who will be able to explain, what, how this works, like what is this, and what do I want to do? When do I want to come? Who should I bring with me? All of those things can help craft that kind of experience. We have a number of fertility related immersion ceremonies. So it's all based on the traditional mikveh immersion kind of structure, where there are typically 3 immersions and a blessing. People can do whatever they want, but there's an infusion also of kavanot, of intentions about different readings and things that people can do to, like, it's thematic, so it's and it brings in some textual kinds of references, and it's all a jumping off point, like, they're on laminated sheets of paper, so like you can actually take a wet erase marker and, don't like this part, cross it out,
Right.
and write in your own thing. Like,
Love
great,
that.
do
Love that.
what you do with it. And so, we have those resources that we can send to people. And I think just from the start of, like, oh, you have a ceremony following an abortion, like you have a ceremony following a miscarriage, like any of these things, like, for whatever reason people are in the situation that they're in. Everybody's different, right?
Yep.
But like seeing that on the page, that somebody else has thought about me and they put something together, I think is incredibly validating for people. Ceremony for dealing with in a time of infertility. These are all, like, we have all of these things.
Amazing.
So,
Amazing.
yeah. So, and when a person arrives, they're greeted by a sensitive volunteer mikveh guide who is there to support the person coming in for their immersion, whatever they need, which some people is like pretty hands-on, and they want a lot of explanation and they want a lot of guidance and to know what to do, or just somebody with them. They like want to talk a lot, they want to cry, whatever it is, and
Yep.
the mikveh container for their experience. And some people are like, they don't even have to say it, you can just full well, like, I'm good, out of my
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
like, get me into the water and that's where I need to be, and like, great. So we're, our volunteers are trained to, like, pick up on that and give each person what they need. And so that's really what they're about. And doesn't matter if, you might have a mikveh guide who is on a fertility journey themselves and, like, totally resonates, and they, and like, they don't share that, because you don't, if you're coming in because you just had your, ninth IVF cycle and, like, it didn't work, or, whatever your story is, like, you don't care about the
Correct.
person who's with you if, they had 6 cycles or they had 12, or like, what, you're like, I don't care, like. And so we train them, like, that's you keep that to yourself, and you can dump it any place afterward, but, like, you leave it at the door, you can pick it up when you go, and, like, we help them process their own stuff afterwards. But it's not a gab fest, and it's not like, you are there to completely just focus on that other person and
Incredible.
what they need.
Incredible. So I guess, I mean, the real question is for the people who don't live in Boston. I mean, you've said you have ability to provide this kind of service in other locations. What does
Mhm.
that practically
Yeah,
mean? Because
yeah,
our audience is all over the world, frankly. So
yeah.
what does
There's
that
probably
mean for
people
them?
right now that are like, great, good for you in Boston, but
Right,
I'm in.
exactly.
You know?
Right.
Yeah. So we started a little less than 5 years ago. We started something called the Rising Tide Open Waters Mikveh Network, which is risingtideopenwaters.org. And there is a list there of,
Say it one more time, just because I want to be able
yeah,
to link it afterwards.
Rising Tide
Yep. Okay.
openwaters.org.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So there's a collection of about little over 30 communities. Some of them have a mikveh, and they are open and functioning and, doing the same, doing the things that we're doing. Some of them are in the process of building and dreaming, um, and they're in that process, and we work together to support one another and share resources, and really figure out how we can boost each other up. We also train volunteer mikveh guides as well. So, and that's, people can take the training from wherever they are. So that's a course, an online course called 7 Steps. It's extraordinary. It's so well done. And so, our goal is really to like train the people, get, this mikveh guide thing is like, it's, just like I said before, like it doesn't really matter how beautiful the place is if the mikveh guy, that person isn't the right person. So like we need to make sure that there are people out there who are well trained, that there are enough of them, and that they don't have to recreate the wheel. My dog has been left outside. I'm gonna go let her in while we're talking.
Excellent.
And she's like, hello. So so we need to make sure that we have these people who are well trained and can really, perform this function. Welcome to my kitchen.
Beautiful.
And so that's a, it's so much more than like, here's how you do the laundry, right? Like
Right.
there's a lot, boundaries and sensitivity, and
Correct.
so it's like it goes through all of that. And so there are about 20 mikvahot right now in the US that are open, that are, they all have different policies and different interpretations. And it's like, it's not for us to dictate, here's how you should do things.
Okay.
Have a shared common set of values, like welcome and like, constant improvement and growth and supporting each other. And so
and I'm guessing that these different rituals for different circumstances are all available wherever you go. Is that correct?
we make these immersion ceremonies available to,
Immersion ceremony. Sorry,
yeah,
I was missing the
that's
word.
fine.
Sorry.
We available to all of our network members, and so they have access to, many of them have the hard copies laminated in their own mikvehs. Some of them, download them and make them available. So the whole collection is also available for purchase on our website. Sometimes people like to have the whole book. There's like
Right.
50 or 60 ceremonies in there,
Wow.
all different reasons. So yeah, so like I always encourage people to check in with a particular mikveh that they are considering going to, so that they can ask the questions that are on their mind, and they can clarify, because like there is a lot of variation. You cannot necessarily go to any mikveh and say, I am I am getting, I'm having an embryo transfer with my wife, and I'm a woman and whatever, like
Yep.
you will not necessarily receive that warm welcome that we're trying to make sure
Yep.
exists everywhere. So it's always good to just ask questions, and make sure. But, but the mikvahot that are in our network all have ascribed to these values, and they have said, yes, we care about these things, we believe in these things, we want in. And so it's like, it's this self-selecting, like, it's a group of mikvahot that are like striving to be welcoming, and like doing the same things that we're doing. And it looks it looks different in different communities, because it's, it has to come from their own community. But they are, there's a lot of extraordinary work going on out there, Portland, Oregon, and Atlanta, Georgia, and Raleigh, North Carolina, and in LA, and New York
Incredible.
City. Just, it's all over, and it's growing. It's really exciting. And so our goal is to make sure that like nobody needs to buy a plane ticket to have this experience. It's Shonda is the word.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
technical.
Shanda meaning embarrassment.
There you go. Yes.
For those of you who are not familiar with the Yiddish there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Okay, so to close us off here, can you, I mean, can you give us, I mean, look, our community is the fertility community, and you were talking already about some of the, you know, some of the different kinds of immersions that you experience, that you offer for people, and that there are, you know, 50 to 60 of them, that there are, you know, a gazillion of them, because people want this in their lives. Can you just share with us the what are people saying about, like, the people who are coming and seeking this are coming and searching for a meaningful experience to coordinate with something that's going on that's troubling or difficult in their lives. Like, why does this matter? Like, why is this important? Why does this matter? Why can't they, like, what does this offer to them that something else doesn't? Like, there are a
Yep.
lot of other rituals, there are a lot of other things that people can do. I mean, I could, you know, we could go on and list, but
Yeah.
why has this become the thing that is so powerful for people? Like, infertility, it makes sense because it's directly related to people's cycles, and but
Yep.
why in other areas of people's lives, why has this become meaningful for them?
So here's what I think. I think people are hungry for meaning and for connection and for depth in their lives. And I think that there's, you know, you take that and combine it with this frenzied kind of culture that we live in, where we are constantly doing on the go, moving forward, packing it in. Like we are so overwhelmed with stuff. And so it's a perfect storm, I think, if you like, without slowing down and like holding on to some of this, I think it's like, I think people really find so much meaning in this idea of like pausing to recognize what's going on in their lives from a Jewish perspective and a Jewish lens. And like, by the way, you know, some of the people who come to us are, you know, what, you know, a stereotypical like connected Jew, whatever that means.
Yep.
And many of them are not, like, they're not members of synagogues. They're not keeping Shabbat, you know, I was going to say in any kind of traditional way or at all, right? Or like
Right.
they're not like, Judaism is not a part of their ongoing everyday life. And there's, you know, like it's still, they might not believe in God. Like there is still something about this ritual that is very personal. It is like 100% you do it the way you want to do it. It's not on anybody else's terms if we're doing this well, right?
Yep.
Like, um, it's on your terms. You do with it what you want. And it's a moment to say like, wow, this is a big deal. I'm getting married, or I am getting divorced, or my child is becoming a bat mitzvah, or you know, any of the number of reasons, like the opportunity that it gives us to slow down and pause and hold what's going on with ourselves and to feel valued and seen by our Jewish tradition, I think is like a huge infusion of strength and meaning in people's lives. Um, and it feels good. I think like, you know, and it's not to say that this is like the answer to the exclusion of other
Of
rituals and
course. Of
like,
course.
but it's also extraordinarily complementary to everything else that exists in the Jewish community. And so um, I think that um, that it's like it's incredibly validating, and I think that um, I think we're all looking for validation. We're all looking to just have some sense of like feeling good in our lives and feeling like we matter and feeling like we're doing something important in the world. And this gives us an opportunity to like recognize like, yeah, that's actually true. I am doing X, Y, and Z, or I am holding the pain that I'm in, and that's okay. like I think it's very validating.
Wow. I just actually got chills. Yeah. I think that you're like, I think that you and Mayyim Hayyim are hitting on something that's incredibly important and powerful in that way. You're 1,000% right. Like we're a culture of going and doing and how fast and constant consumption and, the who can get it done first and faster and better and making more money and blah blah blah. And yeah, that this slowing down and the acknowledging of different spaces in our lives and wanting to infuse that with meaning, I think is really important.
And Jewishly, we're a very heady kind of people. Like we think a lot. We are, we're learners, we're studiers, we're very much in our heads. And I think the opportunity to get out of our heads and into our bodies and actually do something is also it's an incredibly powerful complement to all of the other, the prayer and the learning and the all of that. Like it's I think it gives a lot of strength. It gives a lot of strength to go back out into the world and do whatever the thing is that we're doing. If we can have this opportunity.
Incredible, incredible. Carrie, thank you so much for spending a little bit of your evening with us. I
A pleasure.
I learned a lot, and I know it's important for our community to know that this resource exists, that Mayyim Hayyim exists, and that if you don't live in the Boston area, have no fear, because I'm going to link all of this afterwards, the Rising Tide Open Waters, that you can get on there and you can find somewhere near you where you're not going to have to, hopefully, get on a plane in order to get there. That these experiences can be accessed to people all over the United States, certainly, and in different places around the world. So
Yeah.
I thank you. Thank you for your work. Thank you for for just sharing of yourself personally. I mean, again, that's that's the next conversation. We'll schedule
Fair.
it because there's so much more that I think there's so much more I want to ask, but I want to be true to the space that we've created tonight. But thank you so much. Mayyim Hayyim is an incredible part of our community, and for all of us to know that it exists and can access it at different points that we need it. So thank you so much for sharing with us.
So sweet. Thank you. It's really a joy to be here, and I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing and sharing all of these resources with, like I said, this is so common. It's like it's so normal, and I think the more we can talk about things and share resources, like just the more it's like really giving people what they need, because you're not in this world until you're in it.
Correct.
And have no way of knowing. So like this is really important, and this is it's just there's so much good stuff. So thank you so much for sharing it. And also people should know that if they go to mayyimhayyim.org, the Fertility Journeys Healing Guide is available for purchase as well, and so there's lots of good stuff to support people there. So that's where you'll find it. But yeah, thank you so much.
Perfect. I'm going to link all of those things so they'll be able to find it easily. Thank you
Great.
so much. Have a wonderful night. And everybody, if you want to reach out to Carrie personally, you can reach out to her through the Mayyim Hayyim website or through their Instagram. And and on that, we will say good night and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Bye-bye.